Hey Valerie, what's going on? Are you ready for your 100th episode?
I'm ready, I can't
Oh my
believe
gosh,
it.
it's gonna be so much fun today.
This is going to be so much fun.
So we're in the Oprah studio today. We've
good
picked
to
a
know.
couple different clips of some of our favorite shows, and we'll see some of those in a little while. But first, we got to get ready. So let's go into the Oprah studio and kind of see what we're doing this afternoon.
Let's get ready.
I got a mic for you.
We are so ready to celebrate. I just can't believe, look at the set, look at the balloons, look at the cake, look at everything from my RNC family. And guess what? I wanted the producer, the Oz, the man behind the scene, that's Oz, that's you.
Oh my gosh, that's way too much credit already, Valerie.
Derek Kaufman.
Hi,
I
guys.
told everyone I wanted Derek Kaufman to be on the set right to begin with, because this is the man that does the magic. This is the one that makes me look good. So Derek, thank you for doing that.
You're so very much, and thank you for letting me work with you. I've had a blast over the last. Gosh, I think you and I have worked together since at least episode 50 or
Something like
50,
that.
something like that.
Yes.
So also shout out to Anna as she started
Yes,
with you. Love
yes,
you, Anna.
yes.
And then now we're up to episode 100, which is what we're doing today. So
It's hard to believe.
it is. It really is.
It's
So
really hard to believe.
we've decided to pick some fun clips, from our first 100 or 99 episodes of some of our favorite guests and moments that we've had.
Yeah.
Some learning experiences. So thanks again, Valerie, as always, for your help and always being so professional. I'm
Thank you.
delighted to work on this on a weekly basis, and I love working with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Aside from that, we've gone to social media and we've called some of our previous guests and fans of the show. And I've got some fun cue cards here with questions kind of just about our show, kind of what we're up
Great.
to, what we're doing.
Great.
And I'll give these to you.
Okay.
But I'm going to go back to my normal spot.
We'll go back to your normal shot, because you do the magic.
That's right.
right.
I'm supposed to be behind the scenes, as you can see in this general area. So I'll give you this.
Thank you.
Have a great episode. Happy 100.
Thanks, Derek. Okay, so welcome, 100th. Can I tell you how many dreams I've had of this podcast? It's going to just be me with a cup of coffee. I was going to have a guest, and everyone said, no, just reflect on your 100 years. Podcast, that is. So I've got my coffee in my hand, and you know what? You saw a yellow pillow kind of behind me. I want you to see what it is. When I walked in, they had this on the set because they know I smile a lot. So thank you for that. Before I start, I want to thank the most wonderful sponsor in the whole wide world, TD Industries. TD Industries believed in this concept. They believed in me. They believed in doing a show called Doing It Right, because that's what TD Industries does. And I want to share with you a testimonial that they wrote, because it says everything about the collaboration of our partnership as a sponsor. And here's what it is. At TD Industries, servant leadership is not just a catchphrase. It's embedded in how we lead and how we treat each other as partners. Valerie's Doing It Right podcast not only has helped TD elevate our core value of leading with a servant's heart, but has also allowed our customers and vendors to share their leadership stories. Valerie's podcast has helped us reinforce our customer relationships while creating a platform for TD and our guests to share their insight on leadership success. So that's what the show is about. And again, for over 2 years, thank you, TD Industries. We'll be with each other forever, I hope. All right, let's get on with the show. So let me tell you what I thought we would do today. This is going to be about a couple of things. As Derek said, we've got a lot of interesting questions. I can't wait to just pick them up and answer them as I pick them up. And then I chose 4 quick clips of the best of 4 areas. So let me tell you what they are. One is, what podcast did I learn something in? I'll be sharing that one. And then another one is, what podcast did I have a lot of fun with? Because the guest was so much fun. We'll be looking at that. And then there's one that I'm calling my tearing moment. I don't think that I actually teared, but there was one that actually just really touched me in my heart, and I could have cried. And then the final one is something that, I just had to think about and learn from. Let me tell you what it is. It inspired me is the best way I can say it. Something I'd learned from that really was inspirational to me. You know, I do everything I can to inspire my guests in my training company and on the podcast, but this was a podcast that inspired me. I'm not going to tell you which ones they are, except for the first one. Let's watch the fun one with Jeff Sinelli. I'm also going to tell you what podcast it is, so you can go back. All of my podcasts are evergreen. They're there forever, which I tell my guests. Put some makeup on, do your hair, because you're going to be out there forever. This one was with Jeff Sinelli. Jeff Sinelli calls himself the Chief Vibe Officer, and he owns those interesting, fabulous sandwich shops called Which. I want you to listen to how he explains where he got this concept idea.
I always like to be a little bit unique and different. And when we were developing Which, I had a great creative director. He's still a friend, Paul Kellerhalls, and we were on the phone every day. He was out in California, and we were just like, sending pictures back and forth. Like, what about this? What about this? Then all of a sudden, it's like you're in the production studio and an idea pops up. What if we did this? And one of the ideas popped up during Which is we had a picture, and it was my mom. She used to write the names of our lunches on sandwich bags, and my brother Todd and I would open the refrigerator in the morning, and I would have my name on my sandwich bag, and it would say turkey sandwich, apple, $5. She'd give me a little money so I could buy milk at school, and then my name was on it. So that idea really sparked, what could we do if we turned an ordering system with our bags? But it also, it's like she also made a lunch for my brother, and sometimes I cross out his $5 and reappropriate it. But
isn't that a great story? Again, it goes back to your childhood, and
I think everything.
Ingenious.
There's clues in your journey, and you're gonna come across stuff. And how do you play it forward? I never thought that my mom writing a description of my lunch on the sandwich bag would end up being a global concept.
So isn't it interesting? You just never know as an entrepreneur where you will get an amazing idea and one that works, which it certainly did for Jeff Sinelli. Another interesting thing that I learned about Jeff during our interview and watching his company grow is that he has this project called Project PB&J, Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwiches. Jeff is a very giving back person. I don't know very many people that have such a heart that's always thinking about where and how to give back. And so this project began with thinking about, what? I wonder what I could do, how many people I could feed if we made something that had to do with a sandwich. Well, what's the number one sandwich in the whole wide world? Peanut butter and jelly. And that was another just quick blip of an idea. And today he has served over 1 million peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to the poor, to all kinds of people who come by and need them. But the money goes to all kinds of places that need the money as well. So feeding and the money, isn't that an interesting concept? You be sure and watch Jeff's podcast. As I said, it's number 53. And he was kind enough to call in and give us a message.
Hey Valerie, congrats on your 100th podcast. Sorry I can't be there, but as we say at Sinelli Concepts, we like to make the world a better place, and you're certainly doing it right by your podcast. Thanks for letting us be a guest on your show. Here's to the next 100 and 100 after that. Keep going, Val. Congrats on the century mark. Take care.
So, for those of you who sent in questions, here's the first one I came to. It's perfect for the first question. It says, Valerie, what makes doing it right different? How long do we have? Well, here's the reality. 25 plus years of owning Valerie & Company, training and coaching company, I have noticed so many leaders who are making their mark and making it count. That's kind of a subline. Doing it right as you make your mark and make it count. And what I've noticed about these leaders is that many of them have overcome tremendous obstacles, particularly during the COVID years and before. And what's helped them continue to come out of those hard times is that they've kept the course. They've kept their integrity. They've kept doing it right. They've forged on. They've never given up. And those are the guests that I always highlight on this show. Those people who are successful while they're doing things right. They're leading their teams in a way that the teams want to be led. They're not those authoritative leaders that say you do, you must, you have to, you should, you oughta. But they are collaborative. They care very much about engaging the people in the companies. And guess what? When any of us feel valued and feel like we're making a difference, we'll do everything we can to do the best we can for our department, for our role, for our company. And those are the smart leaders, and those are the ones that I have on the show. So I hope that answers the questions. All right, we'll answer more in a minute. Well, okay, let's go to another segment. This is one that I learned a lot from. Well, I learned from all of them, but I selected one because it was in an industry and a topic that I really didn't know anything about, not much. So this one is from Dr. Sherry Yellen. It's number 89, podcast 89. Sherry Yellen, Dr. Sherry Yellen, is the author of a book called Unforgettable Leadership. And she is all about learning in a way that the brain works. Now that sounds so simple. And when she said that, I thought, well, that makes sense, but maybe I'm not doing it right. So I had her explain on the show, what is it that's going on in our brain and what's something that we ought to know about our brain? Take a look.
Our brain can create a story in milliseconds. And so what we have to think about, our brain is wired to make predictions and give things meaning. So
Connect the dots,
whether it's accurate or not. We don't like the song to not come to a conclusion, right? So when we're out there and there's so much uncertainty, your brain's doing everything it can to make sense, to give meaning, to close the gap, whatever that is. And when you think about it, events in and of themselves are neutral. They're neutral events. Like, you sent me this email, or in a meeting, you said this, or this person got the promotion and I didn't. Those are all neutral events until our brain gives it meaning. The problem is our brain can create a story around an event so fast. So I would say if you're in a situation where there is a lot of uncertainty, you're not getting the clarity, well, first of all, take responsibility for that. So where can you go get clarity?
You have to take responsibility.
Ask, yeah. And then the second is your thoughts lie and you don't have to believe every one of them. So really manage the stories that are going on in your head.
So I don't know if you have a cup of coffee in hand, but I keep it right here so I can stay up during this 100th podcast. I don't have to have coffee to stay up. I'm more than excited. Sherry, as we got to know each other in a pre-interview, and I don't know if you know that I always have about a 30-minute phone conversation or Zoom call with a guest before they're on the show. Now you might think, you mean they'd really do that? You know what? I don't care how high a level a leader is that's been on this show, there's not been one that hasn't said, sure, Valerie. Now, why do I do it? Because I want to get to know the person. I think I was curious before Curious George. I know I was. I want to know the guest that's on the show. I want to know the backstory. It's the backstories that make the guest appearance so relevant and compelling. And so, when Dr. Sherry Yellen and I had our backstory, I learned about how truly authentic she is in everything that she's about, which is leadership development also. She goes in and out of companies just like I do, but she focuses so intently, and it's why she's so successful, on the way she engages with people so that she knows that their brain is working when it needs to, where it needs to, and she can ignite that spark. So be sure and tune in to Sherry's podcast.
Congratulations, Valerie, on celebrating your 100th episode. It was such an honor to be on the show with you, but it's such an honor to just know you. You truly live what you teach. And if ever the world needs to hear how to do things right, it's definitely now. So thank you. Thank you for being in service to your message. Thank you for being in service to us. And thank you for being just such a wonderful, beautiful person. Congratulations.
Okay, here's another question. Interesting one too, which says, out of 100 podcasts, what have you learned as a podcaster? Oh, so much. Well, first of all, I learned that there is so much to it. So I used to be in broadcasting as a journalist. Podcasting is a whole nother animal. And I really had no idea the work that goes behind the scenes. It takes a lot, it should take a lot of preparation. I spend a ton of research on every single guest. I spend a lot of time just writing thoughtful questions. So just the work behind the scenes, that's one thing I learned. Then I learned that I can have confidence to pick up the phone and call someone that I really think would be a good guest. And you know what? Every single time they've answered the phone and they've been a guest. So following my intuition, following recommendations of people that say, you need to have so-and-so on as a guest. And by the way, please listen up. I want you, after this podcast, to send me people you think should be on the show. I promise you, I will pick up the phone and I will call them. So just picking up the phone and knowing you can have the confidence, if you believe you're doing something that makes a difference, go for it. Have that confidence. Whether you feel it or not, go for it. And I think that goes to the last thing I'll say, and that is being clear on why are you doing what you're doing. I hope you can tell I am so clear on the purpose of this show. That's what drives me. So whatever you do, know why you're doing it. What's the why? What's the who you are and the why you're doing it? You got it made. Okay, this one I just am so excited about. This is the one that inspired me. And it's Carrie Stinson, who was Barney the Purple Dinosaur. Carrie came on the show, and now he's a podcaster. He has his own show. Think about Barney the Purple Dinosaur. It's called Purple Roads. You don't want to miss his podcast. Carrie was on the show, and he talked about what it was like to be inside that 70-pound costume as he went all over the world inspiring kids, a lot of kids that were Make-A-Wish kids, kids that had been in the hospital. Wait till you see this. Here it is.
That's just amazing.
My first choreographer is my mother.
Carrie, what out of all those years and traveling all over the world, and what a fun thing.
Yes.
We think.
Sure.
Outsiders think, oh, what a fun job.
Yeah.
What was the best thing about it, and what was the hardest thing about it?
They're probably a little bit in the same, interesting enough. What I learned, as we talk about 23, I had to grow up very quickly because I learned that the kids weren't going to see Carrie, they were going to see Barney. So there was a responsibility there. I couldn't be tired. I couldn't be sick. I couldn't take the day off. I could not feel it. I had to be that character wherever. When I got the main job, I did promotion for them for 5 years and then toured for 5 years. So I was on the road for 10 years. And I started going to hospitals. And I started seeing Make-A-Wish children and kids that had 2 weeks to live. I'm 23 years old. I've just figured out how to do this purple dinosaur, and now I'm seeing this. And I never knew how much I was going to get from those children. I mean, what they've given me is a gift. You know, there's not enough money in the world. The joy and the lessons they taught me, but also seeing that. I had to deal with things at a very early age of death and understanding and all of that. And I've seen things that I didn't think were possible. So what a gift that was.
You know, yes, and never say yes, but yes,
Right.
and
Yeah.
one of the things that you shared as just a teachable point of view that
Sure.
we always ask leaders to talk about
Yes.
was to give unconditional love.
Yes.
You know, Carrie, that sounds easy to say, okay? So from the depth of your heart, how do you do that?
I was raised that way. My father, who was a huge influence, still is a huge influence in my life. His dad left him when he was very young. And so it was just his mother and his brother. And so when he had a family, he was determined to teach love. And so we always told each other we love, my brothers and sisters, always. Held hands at the dinner table, love, so that if anything ever happened to any of us, we never had to question how the other felt about us. We always knew that. So I was already not only in the physical shape, but conditioned for that. And so when I went into these hospital rooms, and I mean, I saw kids that were burned pretty badly and all of those things, but I didn't see that. I saw a child. And the child saw their friend. They didn't see Carrie, they saw their friend. And so I learned, as we talk about unconditional love, all the gifts I got, right? From just being open and just going into the experience, what you would get back.
Well, there's so much more on that podcast, number 62, with Carrie Stinson. And I want to thank Carrie for also giving us a message for my 100th.
My name is Carrie Stinson. I'm the host of Purple Roads, and I played Barney the Dinosaur for 22 years. And I was on Valerie's show as a guest. I had such a great time. I am so happy for you, Valerie. Congratulations on your 100th episode. It was such a fun experience. I love what you do. I have never seen someone work so hard at a podcast and the success of it. It was very inspiring for me to be on your show as well. And I cannot wait to see all the good things you have coming. Congratulations.
Okay, I think I have time for one more question. And I love this question. Who inspired you, Valerie, during those times when you doubted? Doubt? You bet. We always have doubts in our life. And the answer is my family and my fabulous husband of years. I'm so grateful for him and for those who love me, because those are the support system we always need. And the last clip is the one that made me cry. I was interviewing Erin Botsford, who's a very successful woman. She's on national television all the time. She's known as the Advisor Authority. And as successful as Erin is today, she had something happen early in her life, a catastrophe that could have completely derailed her. Listen to her story.
And then, as you said, this tragedy happened. I was on my way to work at McDonald's. I'd finally gotten a real job, you know, other than babysitting, because I was 16. I was driving my sister's car. I couldn't afford a car. And so I was on my way to work at McDonald's, and I hit a guy on a motorcycle, and he was killed. And I mean, that whole story has so many legs, it's unbelievable. But suffice it to say, it just turned our entire family upside down. And we went to meet with this man who called himself an attorney. I'd never met a man in a business suit. My father was a teacher. I never saw a man in a suit. And he said to my mother, and I'll never forget these words. Of course I won't. He said, "Mrs. McGowan, this is purely a matter of economics. If your daughter will just plead guilty to these charges, I'll be happy to enter the plea at no cost. And she'll get whatever sentence the state of California hands down. But if you want to defend your daughter, it's going to cost you a lot of money." Now, Valerie, if you can imagine being my mother, and I'm so sensitized to this because I have 3 grandchildren right now and my own son. My mother literally she stood up, she picked up her purse, she shook the man's hand, and she said, "Okay, my daughter will plead guilty."
So what a great example for all of us to realize that obstacles in our life, we all have them, some worse than others, but we can overcome. And Aaron was kind enough to leave us a message.
Hey, Valerie, congratulations on your 100th podcast. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me to be one of your guests. I just want to tell you, when I posted my interview on LinkedIn, I think it had the most views of anything I've ever posted on LinkedIn. So thanks so much for having me, and congratulations. I look forward to the next 100.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed this episode as much as I have enjoyed being with you today. And don't forget, if you have guests that you know would be super on the show, please email me at valerieandcompany.com. And let me just leave you with a couple of questions. Do you know that you're making your mark and making it count? How do you know you're doing it right? What are those things in your career, in your role as a leader, that you wish you could do differently? Are you showing up with presence? And do you know your authentic brand? Now's the time to invest in you, 2021. I would love to be able to help you in all of the ways of building your business with authentic leadership. Just give me a call, email Valerie@valerieandcompany.com.
All right, guys, just one more time. Happy 100, Valerie. Happy 100! Let's eat some cake.
Let's do it!
Thanks for listening. To receive Valerie's voice, free monthly leadership tips, and to learn more about her leadership programs and coaching, visit her website, valerieandcompany.com. Next week, we'll be here again to inspire, engage, and equip you with teachable points of view from successful leaders who have been doing it right. Until then, lead authentically.